So as a side note, before we jump into today's review, I just want to let you know I'm currently experiencing a cold, so my voice is going to sound a little bit different. I do apologize. But anyways, on to the review. Okay, for today's review, I will be discussing Batman the Ride. No, not the inverted clone coaster by B&M or the Vekoma SLC at Six Flags Mexico. This review is all about the 4D free spin located at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. Oh, and not the other 4D free spin going to Discovery Kingdom. Six Flags loves to reuse their ride names, sometimes to confusing levels. Let's not talk about the overuse of Goliath. Presentation. I think what makes these SNS 4D free spins so popular with the parks is A, the economical price tag, B, their unusual style of thrills, which will intrigue the local GP, and C, their very small footprint. In other words, every amusement park can make room for an SNS free spin. Similar to the Skyrocket 2 clones, this roller coaster is built on top of itself. No left or right turns, just straight up and down. I honestly don't think this coaster style can even has the capability of turning left or right, but that's beside the point. This is a roller coaster that is designed to offer somewhat big thrills working with a small amount of space. Six Flags has added the same amount of theming to this attraction as you would expect. There's the typical Batman car parked nearby or some other Batman things scattered around. Nothing really immersive, just enough to say this is Batman the Ride. Thankfully, the trains aren't stamped with weird ads and such, so just the cool looking Batman logo. All in all, considering this is a Six Flags park, a score of 7 is in order for presentation. Ride intensity. One very unique feature of Batman the Ride is every ride can deliver a different experience. Because the cars rotate freely, the aggressiveness of the rotations will change depending on the weight and placement of the riders in each train. You could experience a rather tame experience, or you could just find yourself being tossed upside down multiple times relentlessly until the ride comes to a stop. Every ride will be different from the last. My first and only experience was on the more aggressive side. I honestly couldn't tell you how many times we flipped upside down. By the time we reached the end of the ride, I couldn't tell you which way was up or down. I was very disoriented. For some, they might consider this ride to be very nauseating, but I didn't find myself sick at all. When comparing this coaster to strong positive G's, I would say it's really intense, but again, that can vary depending on where you ride. If you find yourself upside down while completing some of those bigger drops, you're going to feel some strong G's pushing down on your shoulders. This might be controversial, but I'm going to give Batman the Ride a score of 9 for intensity. It may not have the most intense positive or negative G's as other coasters, but taking the whole package as a whole, this ride delivers a solid punch. Fun factor. I feel like it's hard to describe how fun this ride is. I'd say most riders will say Batman the Ride is either really fun or really terrifying. I'm mostly leaning towards the terrifying side. The reason I even say this is because of my bad experience with Green Lantern, that garbage Zack spin coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Anyways, it was hard to wipe that experience out of my perception of this ride. Thankfully, the SNS free spins are more comfortable than those Intamin Zack spins. So if I were to ride this coaster again, I could enjoy it more. I'm going to give Batman a score of 8 for the fun factor. Originality. Being the first ever SNS free spin coaster, this ride is quite original. Well, sort of. The Zack spin coasters have been around for some time before this coaster model was introduced, so the whole free spinning concept isn't really original. SNS did improve on this concept and has come up with a better, more reliable version. The roller coaster has a very basic layout, which is intended. The main feature of the ride is the spinning cars, not the craziness of the track layout. Small little bunny hops is all you need to provide some good out-of-control spinning. Batman gets a score of 7 for originality. Ride smoothness. When you compare this to Green Lantern, the ride experience is literally night and day. Green Lantern is quite possibly one of the worst roller coasters I've ever ridden. But as for Batman the Ride, it's a smooth experience. Sure, depending on where you're sitting and facing throughout the ride, the smoothness will change. but a score of 9 seems appropriate. Our final tally comes to 8, which is a good to great score. The ride accomplishes what it set out to do, which how can you argue with that? The GP will eat this ride up. I couldn't tell you how many times I've seen the 40 free spin coasters getting shared around on Facebook by my non-coaster enthusiast friends, all clamoring how insane this ride looks, which I will give them that it is pretty crazy looking, even if the layout is simple and somewhat of a one-trick pony. But it does do that trick pretty well. My personal score is a 6, which is an average to below average score. I have to confess, I really wanted to hate this ride for a few reasons. First, it's a spinning concept, reminds me too much of the Green Lantern, so I just assumed this ride would be garbage as well. Also, it's just another clone type coaster that we're going to see pop up at like every Six Flags park. Sure, they may be fun, but they act and function more like a flat ride than they do as a roller coaster. Not to say that it's a bad thing, they seem to move riders through at a decent pace. This roller coaster isn't a flop by any means, just not my cup of tea. I don't think I'm a fan of the whole out of control spinning experience. I mean, I would ride this again and might end up getting a less exciting experience, but I'd rather ride another coaster in the park like Iron Rattler or Superman Krypton Coaster, or pretty much anything else. If you haven't been on a free spin coaster, I'm sure this review will guide you on every one of these clone experiences around the country or globe. They are fun little rides, nothing earth-shattering, just a fun experience. Well, that's my review of Batman the Ride. What do you think of this coaster or any of the other SNS 40 free spin models? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, please subscribe, that way you won't miss more great content coming your way by XscreamThrills.